They say getting older means slowing down, but in the world of heavy iron and solid glass, it actually means getting smarter. Today, we are revealing the 5 indestructible 30-footers every sailor over 60 should own. These are not just boats, they are time machines built from a forgotten era of over-engineering. While the big boat shows are pushing fragile, high-maintenance condos that cost a fortune to dock, a select few survivor hulls are waiting to be reclaimed by men who value mechanical sovereignty over a fancy warranty. These 5 legendary tanks have survived hurricanes and reefs, yet most sailors today walk right past them. There is a hidden mechanical reason why a specific 30-foot hull from 1974 is actually safer and easier to handle than a brand new million-dollar yacht. But there is one secret feature these boats share that the modern industry simply cannot afford to build anymore. Are you ready to stop fighting your boat and start owning the fortress that will carry you through your golden years? A sailor who trusts his hands more than a touchscreen knows the real price of complexity. When a 45-foot yacht breaks down offshore, the tow bill alone can swallow a lifetime's worth of careful savings. One recent ocean rescue rang up at over $120,000 before repairs even started. That is not a story, that is an invoice from the sea itself. The so-called modern marvels are loaded with a dozen or more subsystems, water makers, generators, twin air conditioning units, 3-zone electrical panels, hydraulic steering, satellite domes, and enough plumbing to rival a suburban house. Each one is a promise waiting to break. On a typical 45-footer, you will find 12 or more separate electrical circuits, 3 full plumbing loops, and a navigation bridge that looks more like a flight simulator than a ship. Every mile offshore, the odds of a single failure multiply, and the cost to fix it goes up with every extra foot of hull. By contrast, the old 30-foot fortress asks less and gives more. 4 primary circuits, a pair of water lines, and a diesel engine you can fix with a wrench and a prayer. The Iron Age hull does not demand tribute in the form of 6-figure bills or endless troubleshooting. It just keeps going, so you can keep sailing. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but it respects competence, and competence lives in simplicity. A sailor's freedom isn't measured in feet, it's measured in how much trouble he can fix himself. That's the creed, free means competent. The 30-foot fortress is built for the sailor who wants to keep his own keys. 4 to 6 systems, not a dozen. Fewer wires to chase, fewer hoses to burst, and every part close enough to reach without a yoga class. The Iron Age hull doesn't ask for tribute in the form of marina mechanic bills. It asks for a little sweat, a wrench, and the willingness to learn what makes her tick. That's a bargain any old hand respects. Maintenance on a 30-footer stays in the realm of the possible. The annual haul-out, the spring wiring check, the oil change. These are jobs you can do with your own hands, not a technician's laptop. The numbers don't lie. 4 main circuits, a pair of water lines, 1 honest diesel. Each system is a tool, not a trap. You keep your money for fuel and charts, not for chasing gremlins in a nest of electronics. On the water, competence is currency. The survivor hulls, thick-glassed, bronze-bolted, stubborn as a mule, are proof that the ocean respects skill, not gadgets. 5 of these hulls have earned their place in the Hall of Heroes, and each one is a lesson in self-reliance. The promise is simple: own your systems, own your freedom. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but it bows to competence. Jim Stenson never trusted a shortcut, not in a storm and not in a hull. In 1978, his Alberg 30 took the full punch of a Gulf Coast hurricane. The wind howled steady at 90 knots, then ramped to 110, flattening palms and snapping docklines up and down the bay. By midnight, the little sloop was blown ashore onto a sandbar, the rigging tangled in sea oats, but the hull, solid glass and half an inch thick, held its line. Stenson climbed out at dawn, boots squelching in the mud, and found the diesel still ticking over, the prop clear, no breach in the hull. 5,000 pounds of displacement, 48% of it in ballast, and every ounce working for him when the water tried to claim her. He called it the Fortress, a boat that did not flinch when the ocean sent the bill. That is the promise of a full-keel classic. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but it respects heavy iron and solid glass. The Alberg does not dance or dart, but it rides, predictable, slow to startle, the kind of motion you can trust when the sky turns black. Stenson logged 1,800 miles solo on that same hull a year later, crossing the Atlantic in a season of hard weather. His logbook reads like a hymn to the old ways: slow roll, deep ballast, a boat that forgives the mistakes you make at 3 in the morning, not the ones you make in the shipyard. Susan Henderson, a Cape Dory 30 cutter owner, found herself in the teeth of a nor'easter off Block Island in 1992. 72 hours of grey water and screaming wind, the bow buried, the decks awash, and every system stripped down to what mattered. 8,800 pounds of full-depth keel, 3,300 in ballast, and a hull that never shuddered, not once. She wrote later, "I could feel the keel talking to the sea, steady, stubborn, never yielding." The Cape Dory's cutter rig let her balance the boat under storm jib and trysail, keeping the helm light and the motion gentle enough to sleep between watches. Henderson's voice carries that quiet pride. You do not outsmart the ocean, you outlast it. Both Stenson and Henderson sailed hulls born in the Iron Age, hand-laid, overbuilt, and trimmed with bronze. They paid for that weight in sweat and labor, not in repair bills or tow lines. When the storm comes, you learn what is myth and what is earned. The 30-foot fortress is for those who want to keep their own keys, who know that free means competent, and that your anchor is your landlord. The ocean always sends an invoice, but these hulls have a way of paying it in advance. Laura Gates never waited for rescue. In 1979, her Pearson Triton pitched through the tail end of a Pacific hurricane, 200 miles from land, when the rig snapped at the spreaders and the mast went overboard. Alone, with 10,000 pounds of hull rolling in the troughs, she lashed what was left of the spar to the deck, checked for cracks, and found the hull bone dry. 45% of that weight was ballast, locked deep in a keel that did not budge. The deck-to-hull joint, thick as her wrist, showed no sign of flex. Gates jury-rigged a storm sail from the main, spliced the halyard by hand, and motored under diesel for 4 days. The Triton's solid glass layup, Iron Age, no core, no compromise, let her make repairs at sea, not wait for a miracle. She wrote later, "I paid the ocean invoice in labor, not in dollars. The boat paid the rest." Maria Lopez learned about draft the hard way in 1976, riding out a cyclone in New Zealand's Marlborough Sounds aboard her Oday 30. The wind found every loose line, the anchorage filled with boats dragging, but her hull, 9,200 pounds, 41% in ballast, sat steady on a 5'2" draft. She dropped anchor in a slot the bigger boats could not reach, tucked behind a sandspit, and waited out the storm. The Oday's modified fin let her ride out the gale, while deeper draft yachts grounded or dragged into the shallows. The rudder broke, but the hull stayed watertight. After the blow, Lopez fished a broken mooring line out of the bilge, started the old Volvo diesel, and motored to town. She called it a boat that forgives mistakes. Both Gates and Lopez sailed hulls that made self-reliance more than a slogan. The Triton's repairable systems, single diesel, fixed shaft, no hidden electronics, meant every job could be done with a wrench and a little grit. The Oday's limited draft opened up anchorages where the sea was quiet and the ground held firm. That's the kind of freedom that matters. The ability to anchor where the storm cannot reach you, to fix what breaks with your own hands, to keep sailing when others are waiting for help. In the Iron Age, you traded sweat for safety, not money for miracles. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but it respects heavy iron and solid glass. Your anchor is your landlord, and competence is the rent. These are the boats that let you pay it on your own terms. Eric Lindstrom keeps his logbook. Simple: storm, anchor, repairs, repeat. In the summer of 2021, his Barber 30 Northern Star rode out a Category 2 hurricane on the Gulf Coast. The sky went black at noon, the wind shrieked up past 90 knots, and every boat on the dock seemed to be praying for mercy. By midnight, 3 hulls had cracked, 2 lost their rigs, and a brand new 40-foot boat was left half submerged in the slip. Lindstrom's Barber sat upright, lines humming, diesel ticking over. When the water receded, he found the hull unscarred. 48 hours on a compromised fuel line, autopilot humming, the boat never lost steerage. He called it his vacuum-infused fortress. The Barber 30 is not a relic. It is proof that the Iron Age never really died. It just learned a new language. Instead of hand-laid mat and buckets of polyester, these hulls are vacuum-infused epoxy, drawn tight and dense, every fiber pressed into service. The layup runs 3/4 of an inch thick at the turn of the bilge, with a laminate core that shrugs off impact and resists water like a stone wall. This is not the hollow ring of a cord production boat. It is a drumbeat, solid and sure. When the wind howls, the hull answers back with silence. Only 120 Barber 30s ever left the yard. Each one shipped with a 28 horsepower Yanmar, a folding prop to cut drag, and a factory autopilot wired straight to the helm. Lindstrom's model ran the numbers: 8,600 pounds displacement, 3,500 in ballast, a high aspect fin for bite, and a draft that lets you sneak into the anchorages the big boats pass by. The autopilot is not a toy, it is a tool, meant for the solo sailor who wants to reef in a squall without losing his heading. When the anchor goes down, you feel the weight settle and the world go quiet. Your anchor is your landlord, and the rent is always paid in confidence. The Barber's survival is not just luck. It is the sum of old wisdom and new method, epoxy for strength, vacuum for density, and a refusal to compromise where it matters. Lindstrom logged 15,000 miles on his hull, from the Baltic to Biscayne Bay. He says the Barber is overbuilt by modern standards, but just right by the oceans. You do not outsmart the sea with gadgets. You outlast it with heavy iron, solid glass, and a hull that forgives your mistakes. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but it respects a boat that is built to pay the ocean invoice in sweat, not sorrow. That is the promise of the modern fortress, the Iron Age, still alive, still undefeated. Cut through the hull of a classic 30-footer and you will find what sets it apart. Solid fiberglass, no cores, no shortcuts. The minimum layup starts at 8 mm of pure laminate, polyester and woven roving, stacked to a full 20 mm at the keel. That is nearly an inch of hand-laid armor built to absorb the worst a storm can throw. Where hull meets keel, the schedule thickens, layers of biaxial cloth, resin worked deep, every ply pressed until the glass runs seamless. Surveyors trust their gauges. If the bilge reads less than 8 mm, the verdict is simple, not a survivor. The keel joint is the backbone. Bronze bolts, half an inch thick, spaced 150 mm apart at the front, 300 mm at the aft, each torqued down through a steel plate buried in the layup. 4 bolts per foot where it matters most. Anything less and the sea keeps the score. As one surveyor put it, "If I can't see daylight between the bolts, I walk away." No cord sandwich, no weak seams, just a 25 mm fillet of polyester and roving, running bow to stern. That is why these hulls don't just survive storms, they are built to expect them. Power on a 30-foot fortress does not come from a generator the size of a washing machine or a tangle of digital controls. It comes from a deck-mounted solar array, 200 to 300 watts, yielding 800 to 1,000 watt-hours on a good day. That is enough to keep the lights burning, the autopilot humming, and the VHF radio alive when the sky turns black. The numbers are simple. A single 250-watt panel paired with a 100 amp-hour AGM battery keeps the ship's heart beating. No need for a diesel generator or a shore power umbilical. The sun pays the bill, and you pocket the freedom. Down below, the engine is a different breed. A mechanical diesel, not a computer on a block. Universal, Volvo, Yanmar, all with mechanical injection and hand-primed fuel lines. No ECUS, no sensors to fail, just steel, oil, and compression. If the starter dies, you can hand crank her to life. If the fuel clogs, you bleed the line with a wrench and a rag. These engines do not care about salt or age, they care about clean fuel and a willing hand. When the wind drops and the sea goes glassy, you know the Iron Age diesel will answer. That is the promise, energy independence, systems you can fix, and the knowledge that the sun and your own hands are enough. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but the sailor who owns his power never waits for rescue. First, the keel bolts. Every 5 years, you get down in the bilge and check each one for corrosion, torque, and bedding. On a true Iron Age hull, that means half-inch bronze, spaced 6 inches apart up front, a foot apart aft, 4 bolts per foot where the sea hits hardest. If you can't swing a wrench on every head, you don't own your keel. Next, the stuffing box. That old-school gland keeps the water out and the prop spinning. Service it every 12 to 18 months, new flax, a drop of oil, and a quarter turn on the nut. If the gland runs hot or the bilge gets salty, you fix it now, not later. Then the diesel. Strip it down, clean the injectors, bleed the lines, and know your compression numbers. A mechanical diesel is a friend who asks only for clean fuel and steady hands. These are not optional chores, they're the price of confidence. Out here, every dollar of a $25,000 to $40,000 budget rides on these heavy iron tasks. Skip them, and the ocean sends the invoice, payable in sweat or sorrow. A true fortress sails itself when the wind pipes up and the hands grow tired. That's why the Iron Age hulls make self-steering a birthright, not a luxury. A wind vane bolted to the transom does the work of a second mate. No wires, no screens, just gears and wind. Lines run aft through cockpit clutches, so a sailor never has to leave the safety of the well to reef or trim. Every rope comes to hand, every winch is within reach. Above, a 200 to 300 watt solar array soaks up the daylight, feeding a 200 to 300 amp-hour battery bank below. That's enough to keep the navigation lights burning, the autopilot on watch, and the VHF ready for midnight calls. No generator, no shore cord. The sun pays the bill, and the sailor pockets the freedom. This is the Independence Toolkit. Wind vane, lines aft, solar, batteries, each one a step toward mastery. The creed stands, free means, competent, and the 30-foot fortress gives you both. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but the sailor who owns his own systems never waits for rescue. Your anchor is your landlord. Seamanship is the rent. Right now, the world spins faster, but your 30-foot fortress waits. Heavy iron, solid glass, no apologies. In the Iron Age, competence was freedom, and today it's still the only currency the ocean accepts. The ocean is undefeated against optimism, but seamanship never goes obsolete. Your anchor is your landlord, and peace is earned, not bought. That's the real ocean invoice. Drop your thoughts below and stand by your shipmates.